so tired. I need a break. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Physiology Speaks. I'm your host Bryan Wilson, and on today's show we're going to discuss the physiology behind omega-3 fatty acids, because omega-3 fatty acids have become increasingly popular not only from a research perspective but also within the general public. But don't take my word for it, let's actually see what the public has to say and also see what they know about omega-3 fatty acids. See you later. So I took it to the streets of downtown Winston-Salem to get an opinion of the public and what they thought an omega-3 fatty acid was. So what do you think an omega-3 fatty acid is?
I believe there is a vitamin, but I'm not sure.
Okay. What do you think an omega-3 fatty acid is?
Well, first of all, my name is Mike Rogers. I am the store manager for CVS Pharmacy. And fatty acid omega-3s are really good for joints, brain health. It's good for muscle connectivity issues, tissue issues.
All right, so what do you think an omega-3 fatty acid is?
Omega-3 fatty acid. You know what? To be honest with you, I haven't the slightest idea what omega-3 fatty acid is. Sounds like something that's very interesting though, but I'd like to find out about it. But right now, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is. I have no idea. I even haven't a clue.
Hi, little girl. What do you think an omega-3 fatty acid is?
They are unsaturated fatty acids with a double bond at the third carbon atom. Duh!
Wow, as you can see, many different individuals have many different opinions on what they feel an omega-3 fatty acid actually is, except for the little girl there a few minutes ago, which was kind of weird. But nonetheless, many different people have their own opinions on what they feel an omega-3 fatty acid is. And omega-3 fatty acids can be readily found in many different products. And these products are mainly in the form of things like capsules or gel caps that can be readily found at drugstores. And also omega-3s are now being found in fortified cereals, milks, and dairy products. Since the early 1970s, scientists have been fascinated with omega-3 fatty acids. And this was first discovered in the early 1970s when researchers looked at Eskimos from Greenland who had diets that were rich in fish. And surprisingly enough, these individuals also had lower levels of health problems, such as things like coronary artery disease, which is caused when a hard substance known as plaque builds up within the blood vessels and prevents blood flow. Now, if you look at the diagram here, this is showing you a picture of both a diseased artery and both a normal artery. And as you can see from the diseased artery, the one that's clogged or the one that's blocked, you see that there's a lack of blood flow. And this lack of blood flow can lead to things like a heart attack, which happens when your heart becomes damaged because of that lack of blood and oxygen flow. And so these Eskimos had lower levels of both of these health diseases, and so this caused scientists to become further interested in the health benefits and the physiology behind omega-3 fatty acids. Now, omega-3 fatty acids are known as essential fatty acids, meaning that they must be obtained nutritionally from our diets. And one grave myth that circulates very heavily is that fish actually make omega-3 fatty acids. And this is not true, as fish, just the same as humans, must obtain their omega-3 fatty acids from the diet. Now, the major ways that both humans and fish obtain omega-3s is from plant sources. And one of the major ways that fish obtain their omega-3s is through the consumption of aquatic plants known as algae. And once fish ingest these aquatic plants, they contain omega-3 precursors, which are further broken down into EPA and DHA, and these omega-3 fatty acids are readily found in fish oil supplements and are some of the most potent ones that are associated with beneficial effects. So let's discuss some information regarding the physiology behind omega-3 fatty acids. Now, from a physiological perspective, most individuals often focus on the whole body physiology, or we narrow down really small at looking at the organ system. However, cell physiology encompasses a wide, broad area of physiology, and most often we tend to neglect the actual cell, because the physiology of the cell is very important towards organs functioning as a whole, and most of the beneficial actions of omega-3 fatty acids are at the cellular level. The cell is very complex, and we will focus more on the physiology of the cell membrane, or the surface of the cell. And the cell membrane acts as a barrier, monitoring what comes in and what comes out of a cell. And the cell membrane is made up of phospholipids that contain a phosphate group, a glycerol backbone, and two fatty acid tails. And it is at these two fatty acid tails is where we find our omega-3s can be found. Now, these phospholipids come together to create a double lipid bilayer, and that is the actual barrier of the cell, and this double lipid bilayer is what makes up the cell membrane. But the cell membrane is not just a monitoring system that monitors what comes in and what comes out of the cell. It actually plays a huge role in enabling the cell to interact with its environment. When cells interact with their environment, this is known as cell signaling. And we will see that through the research that has been done with omega-3 fatty acids, is that it is being shown that omega-3 fatty acids have a major role in impacting the way the cell signals with its environment. Now, one of the key components that it has been shown by research that omega-3s are able to regulate is the onset of inflammation. Now, inflammation is a cellular response to some type of damage or some type of negative stimulus. And upon this damage, the cell emits certain molecules and certain signals that tell its environment that, hey, I'm damaged, or hey, I'm hurt. And this is known as inflammation. Now, inflammation is a good thing because it protects us and it warns our systems when something is going wrong. However, when inflammation is too high, we get a destruction of not only our cells, but ultimately this can lead to destruction of our organs, such as in the example of the heart attack, when our heart muscle becomes damaged due to the inflammation and the lack of blood and oxygen flow. So once we intake diets that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, research is now showing that these omega-3 fatty acids become incorporated within the cell lipid bilayer, and it changes the signaling cascade of the cell membrane. This thus leads to a decrease in inflammatory signaling, or a decrease in inflammation signaling pathways. And these are some of the health benefits that is believed that omega-3s can exhibit once we ingest them in our diet. And as you can see, omega-3 fatty acids are amazing and have a huge physiology component when it comes to altering our cell membranes and causing our cell to have changes in the way it interacts with its environment. But there are some key things to remember if any of us decide to take an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. Now remember that, number one, that all omega-3 supplements are not the same, and some have even higher or lower levels of omega-3s depending on the package. And the way you can find this out is by just turning the package around and actually reading the actual milligrams of omega-3s that you're actually getting. Number two, remember that some omega-3 fatty acid products can be toxic, so it's very important to make sure you do and understand the product reviews and also know which products are good or bad. And number three, also remember that fish oil supplements should be refrigerated, and this is something that a lot of people don't really know, but to keep them from spoiling and to help them last longer, make sure that after you first open them, to insert them into the refrigerator. This has been a great learning session today, and I'm glad that you decided to join me for another episode of Physiology Break. Again, I'm your host, Bryan Wilson, and I guess I got to get back to the lab now. See you guys later. guess after a much needed physiology break, I'm finally ready to get back to work.